What up, Bills fans? What's going on? Welcome to week 4 of the NFL. Anthony and I are going to be diving in, getting everybody ready, talking Commanders. Big win for the Bills there, and then moving on to a very big game with the Miami Dolphins. But first, I went to NFL.com, to pull some stats. I like to look at the scores and stuff. Giant ad on the homepage for DraftKings. And I know this is nothing new. DraftKings been around for a while now, but it's like just thinking back on the sports gambling, how fast it became legal and how fast it became a regular thing. We were just talking about how much money do you think they're making?
Tons. It's a ridiculous amount of money that is made on gambling in general, which is why it is, such a marketed thing now. Because sports betting's been going on a long time, but now that it's been legalized in most states, much like the marijuana debate back in the day, right? When Colorado was one of the first to legalize,
right,
and then saw this income burst and all the surrounding states were like, hey, wait a minute, we want some of that money. When gambling was legalized, sports betting, I should say, was legalized in many states, the revenue just poured in because that was back channel money, find a way to gamble if you can, or those who were casually interested didn't have a way to wager what they could. And now it is a huge business. And we were talking about New York State really broke ground with that percentage of profit from this. So the way it works in most states, the state to legalize will take a chunk of the profits that the gambling companies make, right? So if people can bet, $1 billion, but the company makes 500 million. Okay, since you made 500 million, we'll take 10% of that. 10% is the average, or now I guess it's about 13% is the average. Most states go up to 10%. New York,
that's the tax rate.
That's how much the state will take off of the profits, not what's
so not
wagered,
even tax.
The profits. It's technically not coming out of the gambler's pocket. It's coming out of the benefit of the company that are providing it, right? So
net.
It's the profits, right? So if $1 billion and they had to pay out 500 million, they made 500 million. That's what the state collects taxes on. New York State was insane, and I can't believe that companies agreed to this. But when you think about the numbers, they did. New York State takes 51% of the profits from sports betting. What does that mean? $1 billion. They get 51% of that billion if that's what the company's made. And early on in the projections, I remember the first month when it was the playoffs, the NFL playoffs had just started when it was first legalized in New York. They estimated, we'll probably make $1 billion in a year or whatever. And they exceeded that in that month.
Well, because when it first came out, it wasn't really legal in a lot of places.
Right.
So it seems like a low projection, but politically, sports gambling was overnight. It was legalized overnight.
Yeah, because they saw these numbers, man. It's insane.
Yeah. How can you say no to that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, New York State, what did I say in 2022, right? New York State, where was the number here? Here it is. So sports books
the
delivered
industry,
in New York State. In New York State, correct. Not just one company, but sports books made $1.4 billion in gross revenue. So that's how much they profited in 2022 sports betting in New York State alone, right? So you think about that. New York State, in order to get it legalized, said we get 51%. So those companies paid New York State $693 million in tax money just on sports betting. So they profited. Obviously, the other 400 and whatever million went into their pockets, right? So that's why they agreed to it, because it was basically a contract saying, do you want $400 million? How many of us would raise our hands for $400 million? Now, who cares if it's $1 billion and you only get 400 million, right? They're like, okay, we'll sign up for that. Okay, we'll run the show and take 400 million. Of course they will. Yeah. So the numbers are insane. And it's actually,
and you said that's 1 month, right?
No, that was the 2022 fiscal year. Right
So
now in
all
2023, it's up 11% per month on average. And in the football season, we haven't gone through a month of the football season, so those numbers aren't out yet. But they said they're expecting it to almost double from last year. So the numbers are absolutely insane when it comes to sports betting.
I know they got my money. That's for sure. I feel like you kind of have taken some money from that, but I mean,
yeah,
it's like most people are like me, where they don't get much out.
Last year was the net profit. This so far this season, another 5-2 week, by the way, in week 3 for my pick 6 plus the Thursday game. 5-2 on my pick 6 plus Thursday again this week. We're 12-8-1, so 13-8 on the season. That's 5 above par. That's really, really good place to be, right? If you won net of 5 bets in 3 weeks, depending on how much you wager, that's definitely significant. The gambling associations don't like those ones. That's for sure, right? They would be losing money if that were the case.
Yeah, that's just an insane amount of money. I mean,
yeah,
$1 billion, and now it's like way higher than that, right? And we're talking about one state.
Yeah, one state, New York, and New York is the biggest, by the way. New York was the fastest to reach 25 billion in total, sports betting wagers.
You ever heard that saying? What's the difference between a million and a billion? It's like 1 million seconds is equal to 11 days, and 1 billion seconds is equal to 31 years.
That's insane to think about. Yeah.
So like
our brains can't really fathom it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Geez, that's so much money.
It is.
And like New York State. So then, okay, the Bills Stadium costs how much? I think
$3 billion or something.
Yeah. It's up now to $4 billion, right? They added some more. But it's like, the state's still winning, right? They're still, that covers the Bill Stadium and some, although it might come out of different buckets, it's state versus
projections have jumped from 1.65 billion to near 1.7 billion for the stadium. So about 100 million more.
Do you think it's good for the game?
Legitimately?
I mean,
sports betting?
I mean, legalized gambling, because like sports betting's always been a thing, but it's kind of under the table. Maybe like
depends on what you mean good for the game. It definitely brings in fans, right? It definitely gets people more engaged. I'm a Bills fan. I watch every Bills game and have my whole life. But now if I'm betting on the, Sunday night game or the Monday night game, no matter who it is, I don't care if it's, Browns and, Seahawks, 2 teams I not really follow, aren't really in my division. I'm still going to watch that game and engage and support and watch and be, invested in what's happening in that game. If I'm betting, it doesn't matter if it's $5 or it's $5,000, right? That's what's good for the NFL, I'd say, right? They're engaging fans in a way that they haven't been able to do before. Now, obviously the profits are there and that's what it's all about in the end. They don't care about engaging fans. If they could only engage billionaires and make billions of dollars, they would do it and knock the rest of us out of orbit, right? But the fact of the matter is, it's what generates income. They're not as interested in, and spreading the brand generates income.
Right, and that's kind of where it gets weird, though. Would you, if you could, influence the game through, let's say, rule changes or any way, right? There's various ways they could. Nobody knows the inner workings of the NFL like the NFL. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would you? Would you have a call that changes the spread by a little bit so you could profit X? Or make a call you normally wouldn't make, pass interference, holding, something like that, to get a team in field goal range, kick a field goal.
Oh, you're talking totally different, spread. Though. Now you're talking about like the influencing the players and the coaches. And
I'm just saying, like,
that's where it's muddy. Like, you don't want that to happen.
Right, and that's kind of the negatives of being for profit first, and that's what you could argue the sports gambling's brought to the table. You know what I mean?
Correct. But I don't think that would, you're talking like, throwing a game or doing something to influence just because they know that. I don't think.
Well, it's just little subtle stuff, right? And that's more. There's 2 different conversations. Like, are you capable of doing that? And if you are capable, would you? Do you have the integrity to not do that if you're in a position to pull some strings?
Well, we would hope that the NFL does have the integrity to do that. And they've been enforcing it, right? The problem is that the NFL players are fans too, right? We know that players have been suspended for gambling specifically. but we haven't been told what they were gambling on. Now, obviously, they shouldn't be able to influence their own game and say,
right.
Oh, we're going to lose,
talking
right? Because
players.
now you're throwing.
Yeah, and I'd say in this conversation, the players aren't really the stakeholders. They're, obviously they are the game, but really I'm talking more about like,
the refs aren't even
Roger
full-time
Goodell,
employees,
the refs,
right?
Yeah.
Saying, hey,
I mean, I don't think anyone's that, I mean, it's a tough conversation because
it's just a lot of money.
Who's that strong to say no to $30 billion? Or, because we're talking New York State and you're telling me the first year they made $1 billion. Now let's, multiply that in a national scale. Right. And let's say now we're talking 30, 50 billion. I mean, we're talking a lot of money. I don't know the exact numbers, but
it's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot. So that's where it gets weird is it good for the game? And that's where the conversation lies.
I mean, I think they've done a good job so far. We'll see where it ends up. If every stadium's going to have a sports book in it, then, we'll see what kind of rabbit hole that takes us down at the time.
Yeah. And last point, how much do you think the sports books make? How many people lose versus how many people win?
Oh, that's definitely. I mean, they wouldn't exist if they didn't make money. Let's put it that way.
30% of people who bet on a game, like let's just say against the spread to keep it simple, because we're not even talking fantasy lineups and stuff. Yeah. How many people win? How many people lose? What's the average? You think it's around 30% of people win?
My guess would be closer to 25. That the house takes 75% profit basically from the bets that you get.
That's
net
insane.
Over a year, right? There's going to be those events that are like, oh crap, there was $2 billion wagered on this and we lost, right? And it's like, okay, but in the long term, that becomes irrelevant and you still end up for the year probably again with 70% of the total bets that came in were losses, right?
Yeah.
Like losers. So it's hard to stay above 50%. If I gamble on every game or every pick that I make, are you going to stay above 50%? Not everybody can do that. I've done that for 3 years in a row now. So
right. So I'd say the top people are like 50, 60%, but the vast majority of people are like way down in the 30s.
Correct. And that's not even, you're talking about like a one game pick versus a parlay, for example, right? Even if one person bets $100 on a game versus 100 people betting $1 on a parlay, they've won all those parlays if only one of those teams loses, and then they pay out one person. So that's how they generate net as well, right? It's about the type and quantity of bet and what they encourage people to do, right? That's why you see these percentage boost things on like all the things. Oh, we're doing a triple your winnings if you get the right combination of who scores the first touchdown. That's so random, right? Like there's such a low chance of actually getting that comparatively to, everything else.
They're playing the odds, right? That's
there's a lot of
brilliant business model
in sports betting.
Yeah, and it's funny because the business model is so good that it was illegal for a very, very long time.
That's right. And now the states are getting a chunk of it, and they're saying, "Oh, okay, we'll take a little extra tax money to build our roads and
right." There's probably I'd say the methods to police it has probably gone up, like technology. Being able to police it, to prevent players,
to track it
from being involved, from, protecting the game. I'm sure that's a lot better than it used to be back in the day as well.
I mean, I'm sure those local bookies have mostly gone out of business now because of the everybody can bet right on their phone, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. I'm sure there's some still around. All right, let's
money in the closet.
Let's get into football here. Just it's fascinating, right? It's a fascinating conversation, and it's only been legal for what are we talking here? 2 seasons?
Yeah,
for football. I mean, other sports is kind of different, but it's so new. You know what I mean? We don't know the full disruption or impact, and that's why that conversation.
Like I said, it's going up already, 11% per month, and that's including the non-football.
How high can it go, and like what's the game look like in the future? And that's kind of where I'm fascinated by the conversation. But Bills get a new stadium. I mean, if it looks like the state's like, yeah, sure, yeah, we'll pay for that, no problem. But so yeah, it's very interesting. All right, yeah, big game against the Commanders. Started out a little nervous, right? Like the Commanders looked pretty good on defense. They were moving the ball the first few scripted plays. And then all of a sudden, just the defense just started making plays like crazy. Josh Allen started making plays like crazy, and it was another easy Sunday for Bills fans. But I'd say the biggest story of the game, Terrell Bernard, named Defensive Player of the Week in the AFC.
Yeah, what
a game.
I mean, what didn't he do? And the thing is, so last week I kind of said like, oh, okay, he made a big play, but the ball was tipped and he caught the interception last week, right? So against the Raiders. So I was like, hey, that's a good thing. He was there. He was able to make the play. That's what you want to see. This week, dude balled out. He showed up and did it himself. That first interception when he made the leaping grab, I mean, it was absolutely insane. The fumble, the forced fumble, he should have had another forced fumble on a play that was called forward progress. That wasn't, right? Like he's had a great start to the season, right? Most of Bills Mafia, I jokingly put out a tweet at the beginning of the game when he had the sack and then the interception. I put like, oh yeah, all of Bills Mafia knew exactly what Terrell Bernard, our middle linebacker production, was going to be this year, and that he's a superstar and all. No, most of Bills Mafia was nervous as heck that we lost our middle linebacker, who was the heart of the defense, and then we're putting in somebody who was unknown.
We didn't really see him a lot in the preseason.
That's right. He was an unknown.
It was very quiet, right? They didn't really talk about him a lot. I think he had an injury, if I remember right.
Correct. But in the first preseason game, he got
right. We all thought it was Dotson because he's getting so much playing time, and we were hoping Dorian Williams would step up. But Bernard, under the radar. But him coming out and having this stat line. Listen to this stat line: 5 tackles, 2 assisted tackles, combined for 7. 2 sacks, 2 tackle for loss. I guess Q's probably quarterback hurry.
Fumble recovery, right?
1 interception, 1 pass deflection, 1 fumble recovery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it would, I heard this week too that no player has had that good of a game since Brian Urlacher. And
easy
no defensive player.
Easy.
That's nobody's had those stats since Brian Urlacher. So that's a pretty huge comparison. Not that he's going to have the career that Brian Urlacher did by any means.
And I feel like that would be amazing. Bernard hasn't been challenged yet. Like you got Zach Wilson week 1, you get Jimmy Garoppolo week 2, who's a decent quarterback, but he's not a downfield passer. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And then Sam Howell, who's still new, right? He was clearly confused by the defensive scheme.
Yes. And the pressure, right? That's what we talked about last week.
Yeah.
That's what I emphasized was they are going to get pressure on him. And when they do, that's when he gets flustered and makes mistakes. And sure enough, that is exactly how it turned out. Even better than we could have ever scripted, right? I mean, 5 turnovers. What did they have? 9 sacks, something like that. Insane amount of pressure generated, which is what you want to see.
Right. So then you got Tua this weekend. That's going to be a challenge, I think, just because of the quick release. And Tua's the best slant ball thrower in the league. He's got to be top 3. It's out quick. But then, Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones weeks after that. Then you got Mac Jones, Baker. And then the next elite quarterback is probably, because I don't think we're putting Trevor Lawrence there yet, but I would say Joe Burrow November 5th. That'll be a challenge for Bernard. Yeah. So he's in for the long haul, though, and this really shows that this is his job. You got the fan base on your side now,
right?
And there's no more questions,
right? I think what's more encouraging, something that maybe the coaching staff already knew that we did not experience, is his play calling on the field. He's middle linebacker. That's the most important position for calling defensive plays and lining everybody up and making sure that everybody's in the right spot. And you could clearly see that in this game against Washington, where he was telling guys, hey, this is what we're doing. Hey, get over there. We're doing, and he's calling the plays, and you could see his confidence is high, right? And the coaching staff clearly saw something in him where they were like, look, this is the guy. He has this ability. He's very smart on the field, knows how to communicate with the players on the field. And even though he's younger than them and he's not, hasn't shown on the field what he's capable of, we trust that he has the potential and that he's capable of, not only capable, but can thrive in those situations. And he has so far. And you're right that he will be challenged more, but the fact that he's already had this much of a good start will boost his confidence, will boost building him. He's only going to get more consistent, right? Grow as young players do as time goes on. So I'm by the time we get to that Joe Burrow game, we might already know what to expect from Terrell Bernard, right? And that's now the expectation instead of, holy cow, he had this amazing game that won him Defensive Player of the Year or of the week. Hey, maybe he'll end up Defensive Player of the Year, but yeah, there's certainly an awesome start for him, way exceeding expectations of Bills fans, probably of the NFL as a whole. They probably didn't know who he was until now, but he's put himself on the map. And we'll see, yes, his biggest challenge now will be with Tua, and that goes for our whole defense, right?
And when we say challenge the quarterback, we're talking in the passing game, right? I think he's probably been challenged already. The Jets ran the ball right at him, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think he did a decent job there. I'd have to go back
Correct.
and check, but
that's what I was going to say. Is it's also about the defense playing together, right? They have to click together,
playing within the system.
Even if they want to attack the middle linebacker position, it's not like you can attack one player. They got to get through the defensive line to get to the linebacker.
And the defensive line's playing phenomenal. Right now,
yeah, exactly. They
seem to be firing on all cylinders. They're creating gaps for the linebackers to shoot, right? That's part of it as well. And I think in McDermott's scheme and even Leslie Frazier's scheme, that the linebackers are designed to succeed, right?
Yes.
We've seen, Matt Milano, 5th-round pick now. Bernard having a player of the week game as a 3rd-round pick. I mean, that's, part of his scheme, but you also have to execute in the scheme, right? And I think we saw that with Edmonds sometimes, just kind of failed to hit the gap at times. It's still new for Bernard, so I expect, mistakes to come because it's just part of the game. But he seems to be very comfortable so far when you watch him.
Definitely. And that's going to lead to success.
For sure. All right. Miami Dolphins put up 70 points on Denver. It's embarrassing, but I mean, it looked like Denver quit. But again, the Miami Dolphins didn't really slow down the offense at all. They were fast all day.
Yeah. That's just what they do. I mean,
huge.
A chain, I'm going to say, I've heard it pronounced like 4 different ways this week.
The new pronunciation's A-chain.
A-chain. Okay.
A-chain. Yeah.
A chain. He has
new pronunciation.
His coming out game. Now, I knew based on draft prep that this guy was the speediest guy, like of the running backs. And him going to Miami, that's what they wanted, the speed. And they haven't been able to unleash him yet. Now it's, the game's out of hand, under control. He goes in the game, scores 4 touchdowns and blows things up, right? And shows what he's capable of as an NFL player. I don't think he's going to, all of a sudden live up to that for the rest of the season. It's still going to be Raheem Mostert first, I think, but certainly showing that ability to maintain, they never let up. Like you said, they did put him in more. They did give him carries. They did put in the backup quarterback. It didn't matter. That offense was still firing on all cylinders. Right. And kind of, obviously the Broncos defense at that point was so beat up on themselves that they just let anything happen, right? So it's a combination of those two things. Don't get me wrong. That starting offense, if they had remained on the field, would definitely have generated points and played through. Fact of the matter is, in the NFL, the reason people don't score 70 points is because nobody's trying to score 70 points, right?
Right.
If you're up by 21 or more, in the fourth quarter, you're sitting most of your starters in those circumstances under most teams.
Which they did. Mike White scored a touchdown.
Exactly, yeah.
Robbie Chosen.
That's what I'm saying.
Robbie Anderson.
So it's almost more of a credit to their backup players playing at the same level as their starters did, right? And scoring as many points as their starters did. It's an amazing feat. Don't get me wrong. Putting up 70 is something I haven't ever seen. Nobody in our lifetime, right? So it's certainly a feat to be proud of if you're a Miami fan and like a Miami player, certainly. But scoring 70 doesn't do anything for you the next week, right? So they have to be ready for the Buffalo game too. And that's what I love about this. My favorite part of them scoring 70, I wish they had scored 80, because now the national media is going to be talking about them. They're going to be feeling themselves coming into Buffalo. They're going to be on their high, right? Like, man, our offense, nobody could stop us. We scored 70. This is who we are. We're the best team in the NFL offensively. The talking heads are going to say that whether or not the coaches let that leach into the players' heads, it's going to be there, right? Like it might not be what they're preaching in the locker room. They're going to say, get ready for the next one, but it's there, right? And because of that, I think it gives the Bills an advantage, because they're going to come in full of themselves, and they haven't played a defense like the Bills defense, right? So they're in for a punch in the mouth for sure. They're not going to put up close to 70 on Buffalo. That's for sure. So I'm excited to see that matchup and happy that they scored 70. If they had lost the game, right, say they had a tougher opponent. They played Kansas City. It was a drag them out game, and Miami loses by 3. They're going to come into Buffalo a lot more hungry than they are coming up winning by, scoring 70 points and winning by 50, right? So it's a better situation in my mind for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, so let's go through it real quick. And this is going to be skewed for a while because when you score 70, you're going to be in the top of all the stats for most of the year, right? If you have that one good game. Right now, Miami's number 1 in passing yards, number 1 in team offense, number 1 in passing touchdowns, tied with Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 in rushing yards. This is no surprise. Number 1 in rushing touchdowns.
Of course.
See. Yeah, all of them, right?
They've probably got a 300-yard head start on the next people, right? So
number 1 in points per game at 43. Bills are number 2 with 30. San Francisco close second, 30 as well. Bills are 30.3. That's how close that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, red zone touchdowns and scoring percentage. What percentage of your drives end in a score? Miami, number 1. And I think it's going to be like that the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's going to be hard to top for sure. Even by their own standards, they could get shut out for 2 games, and they're still going to be up at the top stats-wise. When you score 70 points, that's what happens. And you put up how many yards? Like 800 yards? I mean, it was insane.
It was insane. And so 700 and something.
Yeah, almost 800 yards. That's going to put you ahead. But again, they have to have that mentality of next game, this doesn't mean anything. Because at the end of the year, it doesn't matter if they have the most passing yards, the most receiving yards, or whatever. It's did they beat their divisional opponents? Did they win the games they needed to make the playoffs, let alone compete for the division? Because this game might have divisional impact now, but it's not the end of the world for the Bills if we lose. Miami loses, it's not the end of the world for them either, but it certainly gives the Bills the advantage in the division, and Miami's suddenly chasing one of those wild card spots. So it does have, your mindset matters now. The outcome doesn't, right? So that's what I'm trying to get at there.
Yeah, to the
last year, we saw Miami last year celebrate the Super Bowl in week 3 when they beat the Bills, the game I was at in Miami, and told all those fans, listen, it's a long season. You can celebrate now, but it's a long season. And sure enough, we beat them in the playoffs. So
and that's a good point. It's it seems like they get hot every year and then they fizzle out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this year it seems a little different because they're hot out the gate. And when you put up 7, they make it look easy so far this year. Right. But the question is around them, is it sustainable? Are we going to see them play well all season? Are they going to be a hot offense all season like we see in Kansas City?
Mm-hmm.
Even Kansas City has highs and lows. But, with this offense, the way they're playing right now, I think it is sustainable. But the question comes down to, can Tua finish a season? That's the big question.
Health is always the question.
I'm not sure if he's played an entire season in the NFL yet. And then will they get figured out? Right. So that happens to teams, they're hot certain points of the season. The defenses learn how to put certain pressures on them, maybe, forcing Tua to throw it on the outside, for example. Or find something he struggled with and exploits that, right? And I kind of think that's what New England did, right? They knew how to put the pressure on Tua and force him to throw outside, and it slowed him down. So yeah, things like that. But I mean, the personnel, the play calling, best in the league right now, that is sustainable. We've seen that from Mike McDaniel with backup quarterbacks. We've seen Tyreek Hill pick up a fumble and score. I mean, so if you're asking me, it all comes down to Tua, right? Because I think, again, with this roster, it's going to be hard to put.
I would agree, but the good thing is, if you're Miami, you feel good about your offense is very balanced, right? They have a great run game. They have a great pass game. So maybe there is going to be a game where they're shut down in the pass game and Tua throws a couple interceptions. Well, they might end up generating more rush yards that game and running the ball more and effectively running the clock out and scoring less points, but still getting a W against a grinded out team. Sort of like they did against New England, right? It's not like New England played good defense against them. They were in the game all the way to the end. So that matters, right? You got to know how to match up against a team that has multiple weapons on offense. You can shut one of them down. If you're Miami, you feel good about, okay, you can shut us down there, but we also have this 1-2 punch. but we could say the exact same thing about our Buffalo Bills and how much more consistent you've shown the ability to do that and win tight games and be dynamic when it matters. So yeah, and then that's the same reason for Kansas City. We could say they've shown that they can win in the tight games and do it their way, where everybody's chasing them. So still, it's going to be a fun game to watch. But still, it's going to be a carryover. I'll go back to what I said earlier. Mindset matters now. Outcome, not so much. But in the long run, the outcomes are going to be what determines it. So, we'll see down the stretch what impact we say this game had at the end of the season.
Yeah. So, do you think this game, does this decide the division?
No.
Way too early in the season, right?
It gives the Bills the edge, but I already had the Bills. I think that last game of the season, many think that's going to be for the division. I don't. I think that last game of the season is going to be irrelevant for the Bills. We're already going to have, whatever seed we have in the playoffs, 2 or 3 probably locked up. And so we're not going to play the starters against Miami. Miami might be competing still for one of those wild card spots or seeding, or maybe they'll have it locked up too, and the game will be completely irrelevant. But either way, I don't think the Bills are going to go into the last week of the season competing for the division, which means this game, although it will be a notch in the belt for why the Bills win the season or win the division, is not going to be ultimately, the deciding factor. Other teams have to beat Miami for that to happen, right? That's basically what I'm saying. Miami's
right.
going to lose more games against their opponents than the Bills are. That's what it comes down to for the division in the end.
Yeah, next few games for Miami, they got the Bills this weekend, as we know. Then they got the Giants following week, Panthers week after that, and then at Philly.
There's the tough one. Yeah.
We all know they have Kansas City. They're at Arrowhead this season. I was going to say the Jets are tough, but really not sure.
Not right now.
If they keep Zach Wilson, they're going to be at the bottom, But really, Baltimore, they're at Baltimore late in the season. And then they play Dallas as well. So besides that, looking pretty light.
Yeah. And obviously
they're definitely going to make the playoffs.
Patriots definitely again, Bills again.
Going to be in the mix.
Correct.
I disagree with you. So I think the last game of the season is going to be for the division.
Okay. We'll see.
Yeah. And I think that's Miami's going to be playing from the top. And that really, it all depends on Tua. But I still think they could win with Mike White. That's an upgrade from, Skylar Thompson last year.
Certainly.
So definitely.
We'll see. Because I think they lose those tough games. They're going to lose to the Eagles. Mm-hmm. They're going to lose to Baltimore. They're going to lose probably to New England the next time they play. Even.
You hope.
Well, I predict. Yeah, that's why I have the Bills winning the division. But it's again, what do I have? The Bills with 12 to 13 wins and Miami with 10 to 11 wins. I mean, it's going to be close.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. And really, what I'm interested to watch is when are they going to get hot? When are they going to get cold? Teams do this, right? Very rarely do teams stay hot all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen this with Kansas City. We've even seen this with Buffalo, right? They go through cold streaks. But I think what the Bills have learned in the past few years is you got to get hot at the right time. You got to get hot at the end of the season, running into the playoffs, and you got to stay hot through the playoffs. And with Miami out hot this early in the season, there's going to be a cold streak, but can they get through those dips and come back hot late in the year? And that'll be what I want to pay attention to. That'll be very interesting.
Absolutely.
All right. So on the Bills side, though, McDefense, McDermott playing, making all the play calls this year, and placing Leslie Frazier, and so far looking good.
Yeah, I mean,
again, got to mention Zach Wilson, Jimmy Garoppolo, and young Sam Howell. Really haven't seen it put to the test as far as scheme goes. It seems like no one's really challenged them scheme wise. Obviously, they lost to the Jets, but I think that was more of an offensive debacle than a defensive.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, the defense did their job, right? So I think it's definitely been impressive seeing McDermott so far calling the plays, being the one to make the decisions, right? Like he's there, and it's paying off for him, right? We know it was kind of a contentious thing with Leslie Frazier being relieved from his duties in a weird way where he's technically still employed but taking a year off. But McDermott basically putting his stamp and saying, I need to take charge of this and be the one again, because that's his roots, right? From cornerbacks to defense. That's why McDermott was given a head coaching job to begin with. And over the years of his being a head coach of the Bills, we've seen the consistency on defense, even through his defensive coordinators. And now that he's making the plays, it does look and feel a little different. Now, you can make the argument that this is certainly the best personnel match he's had, right? We have a little bit stronger defensive line, certainly pass rush and up front stopping the run, right?
So, and the secondary is deep this year, right?
Exactly.
A lot of experience in the starting lineup.
Uh-huh.
And because of injuries, there's a lot of experience, in the 2 spot too, not cornerback 2, but like the second in the depth chart, right?
Yes.
Jackson's played a lot. Christian Benford, the starter, but I mean, Kyrie Elam's played, right? A lot of conversation around him, but they're all experienced. They've all been in the game. They've all played well at times. So I think they're deep, right? To your point.
Yes. Yeah. And again, McDermott calling the plays, it's paid off in certain ways. And part of that is game planning, right? Which he's always involved in and has been, only now probably more emphasis on the defense. That has worked well against the opponents they've seen. That's the consistency we're now looking for against a team like Miami with Tua, who's a step up from who they've played so far at quarterback. That a team like Miami is going to get theirs, but it's how you game plan and how you adapt in game to what is working for Miami, right? To say, okay, how do we shut this down now? And how do we limit them production wise? How do we make the big plays when we need to? And a lot of that is going to be McDermott's game plan. And we're going to see if that works going into a matchup like this and throughout the season. But so far, Mick defense is right. Like he's definitely lived up to his roots in calling plays.
Right. We saw it be more aggressive, right? I think historically Sean McDermott's been a more aggressive play caller as far as blitzing a lot, sending the safety, sending the corner blitz. But this year so far through 3 weeks, blitz percentage is 3rd lowest in the league. They're behind the Bears and the Colts. But when you look at sacks, they're 3rd, tied for 2nd. It's the Colts, Bills, Cowboys are tied at 12, and then the Steelers have 13 sacks on the year. So I mean that just screams that the front 4 are
getting
enough.
Home.
They're getting pressure on the quarterback. You don't need to call those blitzes. But you do have opportunities where, let's make a gap and have Bernard shoot through, right? Or a safety,
correct,
or things like that.
And you have to call it in the right situation. So the problem is against a team like Miami, you do that, you pull one of your players from the backfield to rush, and all of a sudden there's a hole that all it takes is one little pass and boom, 70 yards, So you got to be careful about being gouged for big plays if you're choosing to do that. Pick your poison. And that's where McDermott's experience comes in, I think, right? He knows kind of how to feel out the opponent, right? And game plan for that opponent and say, okay, Tua, what we need to do is only on 3rd down, we bring the extra guy and we get in his face quicker than we do the other downs. And that's how to fluster him, for example. Not saying that's going to be the game plan, but that's
he's got a quick release. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they set it up, but you can drop 7.
Correct.
Just rely on your pass rushers.
That's been the game plan so far. So you talked about it. Lowest actual blitz rate, meaning they bring more than 4, but 3rd highest in terms of production. I mean, that's where you want to be. And a lot of that is finish, right? There's still places where the Bills can finish a little better, make the tackles. I think we're probably still up there in terms of missed tackles as well. It's been better overall this season, but there's been certain plays where, it's one after the other, and that's where they get that big play.
And that's, when if you want to feel better about the Bills tackling, go watch the Denver Broncos versus Miami.
Oh, God.
My God.
There wasn't any tackling. They just ran into the end zone.
Yeah, they just gave up. Yeah. Missed so many tackles in that game. But anyway, defense has been fun to watch and definitely excited to see their first real test. I mean, they're facing a real offense, the best offense in the league right now. So that's a real test to McDermott's preparation, you know, how much buy-in the defense has, how far along Terrell Bernard is in calling the plays.
I love this matchup for Trey White
be fun to watch.
Trey White with the interception. I mean, he's right. Our star cornerback, the guy who 2 years ago, before his injury, was one of the top 5 easily at his position, kind of been under the radar since he's been recovering and everything. Made the big splash play, the interception, when it counted in the red zone versus the Commanders. Now, can he build on that? And obviously, this is a tough matchup for any cornerback, no matter how good you are. But how does he respond, and what does that look like against this Miami team? Definitely one of the things I'm looking forward to in this game.
For sure. And we'll be talking a lot more about Miami tomorrow night. Tune in, 7:30. And podcast will be up Friday, headed into the week. We'll be doing our picks, diving into Miami, making our score prediction and our pick for the Bills-Miami game. So be sure to tune in for that. All right, one thing on the offense. Should Dalton Kincaid, the first-round pick tight end, be more involved in the pass game? We heard all offseason. I can tell you firsthand from watching Dalton Kincaid in college, the kid's capable of a lot in the pass game.
Yeah.
Hands like crazy. He's got speed and cut moves, agility, more than most tight ends, I'd say. What do you think the plan is for Dalton Kincaid? Is he going to be more in this offense, or do you think he'll have a limited role as long as Dawson Knox is around?
He's going to be featured more and more. Let's pump the brakes a little. He's a rookie, right? He's still a rookie. So you can only play him so much, right? You can only give him so much of a burden. He will have a breakout game one of these games coming up, right? He's going to sooner or later have a 100-yard and a touchdown type of game, right? And they're going to play him more and more in the slot, right? As was expected basically in the preseason. The 12 personnel is going to pay off, both Knox and him on the field. And that's going to open up opportunities for Knox, too. Knox is still going to have a big game somewhere in the season. So will Dalton Kincaid get more involved? Yes, I expect that because he's getting more comfortable just in NFL experience, just in chemistry with Josh Allen, those things that matter. Even Josh in his press conference today mentioned that he wants to get Dalton Kincaid more involved, right? Because he is that dynamic player that you spoke about. So I think that's one of those things where it's just going to build as the season goes on. And when it comes playoff time, hopefully that's a well-oiled machine that we just know what the expectations are and he lives up to them, right? That's where you want to be come that time of year. And I think he's already getting his way into that role, right? He didn't play as many snaps, I think, or, only had 2 catches against Washington, but I expect that to be just because of the game plan and not so much because of the player, right? It's not like he's dropping passes. He did have a couple of mistakes. He's a rookie. He had a penalty in the previous game against the Raiders. He had 2 in this game. The tripping one was really stupid. He used his hand. I'm like, what? That's a penalty? What?
Yeah,
he barely did anything. So that was a weird one. But he did have the other penalty, which was legit on him, just, again, getting used to the game. So he's got to limit that a little, but that's expected too. So he'll be more involved as the season goes on.
I'm trying to find, so I know he has 11 receptions on the season, 12 targets.
Really good hands.
Yeah, 91%, catch percentage, if that means anything. And I'm not sure where he stands against Dawson Knox, but he's tied with Travis Kelce in receptions. I know Kelsey's played one less game. But yeah, I was just looking for Dawson Knox. Let me pull him up quick because I bet it's closer than we think, to be honest.
Yeah, Knox has had a few big plays too, in that, even against the Jets, they were both getting catches, and Knox actually was really bulldozing guys for that extra yardage, which is what we've come to know from him as well. And, he knows he's very aware on the field of where the marker is and when he needs to dive or fight for that extra yardage.
So far this season, Dawson Knox only has 11 targets, 7 receptions. So Kincaid does have more targets, technically, one more than Dawson Knox.
And remember, Knox was a little dinged up going into this Washington game, too. True. So he was on the injury report previously.
Fair point. But I think, does he need to be more involved? I don't think so. I think the use for him, or the strength of him, is you can use 2 tight ends. Like, you can split with Dawson. Yeah. He can do a lot of what Dawson Knox does, and vice versa. I'd say Dawson Knox probably a little better in the blocking game right now. But to see them have equal targets, that's as expected, right? They're not gonna. He's not Travis Kelce yet, or will he ever be? Most likely no. But you don't want to give him 25 targets through 3 games. So I think it is balanced, and it'll
certainly
be matchup and week per week. And like I said, I think he will have a breakout game at some point this season, but remains to be seen.
What the Bills do need is some pass catchers to step up, right? Diggs has been Diggs, right? We know what we get out of him. Throw him the ball every single time, and you're going to have a chance at a big play, right? Every single time. The problem is other people need to be there and be reliable for Josh Allen as well, including Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. So they might end up eventually being the number 2 option in the pass game this season. Knox and Kincaid, one of them is going to be the number 2 option. No disrespect to Gabe Davis, but, we've seen him drop balls. We've seen the inconsistency. That's enough for me to say, okay, somebody, even if it is Gabe Davis, more power to him. But I have more faith in the growth that we're going to see from Kincaid to make up for that, if that makes sense. Not that I'm going to see a setback from Gabe Davis, but we kind of know what we got there. Let's get the gains where we have them in Knox and Kincaid working with each other.
Well said. Yeah, can't top that. Yeah, that was you ever thought about being the spokesman for the tight end room? That's pretty good there. All right, let's jump in. I got 4 cash or trash questions. Then we're gonna get out of here.
Here we go.
But been a while. But let's bring it in here. We used to have sound effects. We'll bring those back. Cash or trash, Kaiir Elam.
Oh my gosh.
Start a game this season.
Right now, I hate to say it, but trash, right? Like, is he going to start a game? Well, I did say that week 18 game wasn't going to matter. And in that case, yeah, you probably would start your 4th cornerback, your 4th outside cornerback, right? Like he's right now he's just in a difficult spot. A lot of people are talking about the matchup this week and, maybe they'll activate and play Kaiir Elam more because he's going to suddenly, they're going to want to play more press man coverage, and that's Kaiir Elam's roots. But remember that's clearly whatever it is not translating for him in this defense. It doesn't mean he's not good or isn't going to be good. I don't like that talk either. Kaiir Elam's a bust. It's year 2 for this kid. He doesn't have to start yet to be a bust. Yes, he was a first-round pick, but the development there is yet to be seen. But do I expect him to start over the way Benford's playing, over the way, Dane Jackson is consistent, and obviously Trey White? No, I don't. I don't think he'll start. So trash for me.
I'm going to go cash. I think we will see him start at some point when the matchup is favorable.
Miami?
Right? Is that this week? He's inactive last week. Hey, get a head start on Miami, rest up, need a good practice. You're going to be matched up on Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill. Go get him, kid. But again, you look at Dane Jackson, Christian Benford, they're physical cornerbacks. They like them because they're good at stopping the run. They're great tackling cornerbacks. Kaiir Elam is a great, play the ball in the air corner, right? And I think he's better at that, at least than Dane Jackson. Christian Benford has been pretty locked down at this point. You have to get into more detail to figure that out. So I won't put him there, but we've seen him make plays versus Miami. He played a lot versus Miami last season. So, I got a hunch that he will maybe start this week. Is that crazy?
Start? Again, I've heard that from people based on the matchup, but
I don't think you got to think what the Bills have got to be thinking is CB2 is fluid. There's no starter, non-starter. It's match
with the way Benford's played.
Chance. True, and I can see that part. Like
Benford and given, so this is the real part, right? Again, the options. Yes, okay, we get it. If Eric was defensive coordinator, this makes sense, and that's the same for a lot of people out there talking. But Sean McDermott is the defensive coordinator, and we know that he does not like to change the game plan. No matter, he's not this guy who says, all of a sudden we're going to play more man. That's not who they are, right? Stick to what we do best and play to the best of our ability, which is going to limit them, rather than try and change our mindset, try and change our game plan just because the opponent is better at X, right? You do that a little bit to adapt, but starting Kaiir Elam, that would be a huge change from what we've seen from Christian Benford.
Yeah, fair. But if you're gonna change anything, this would be the week to do it. You're playing a team that just scored 70 points.
Again, not arguing it at the principle of it, arguing that the history of McDermott would put me, if I'm a betting man, and I am, away from that strategy.
Right. Well, let's think about it a little bit. I mean, we know Tua's going to throw it over the middle. This quick slant game is going to be effective, right? You just can't stop that.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you need there? Physical cornerbacks who are fast, who can come in and make the tackle, help the linebackers out, right? But if the game plan is to guard the inside and force a throw on the outside, you want somebody who can play the ball in the air, right? Because I do think that's Tua's weakness, is throwing to the outside versus throwing the inside. And that's not to say he's bad at it, but like it's not his best area of the field. You know what I mean?
You're nitpicking, right? Same thing that they would do for Josh Allen, right?
Right, sure. You have to play him somehow, right? And if you're going to make a plan, that's the plan I would look at. So yeah, maybe it's not so much about being physical, because these running backs they're finesse. They're not physical running backs. They're not going to try to run you over.
Yeah, speed.
Although they're speed first. So I mean, this would be the week where you want to, put someone with Kaiir Elam's skill set to try to make a play on the outside in the pass game, and then
we'll see.
Can also play these running backs.
I think the argument you're making is have him active on game day, see how the first couple of drives for Miami go, and then if you need to adapt and change, you have that piece that you're confident in.
We're saying start. We're not saying,
but you're
win the snap count.
But again, the argument that I would make for that is if you're trying to make Kaiir Elam better at playing zone and adapt to the defense that Sean McDermott plays, why are you all of a sudden going to make him, oh, wait, we're playing this way, so we do want you to play that way, even though we've been trying to make you play a different way, right? So
well, that's what a lot of defenses do. That New England's notorious for that. It's matchup league. You play the matchup, and I know the Bills are primarily a scheme defense, so I understand exactly what you're saying. But yeah, if you're going to make a change, this would be the week. But
do the thing we told you not to do because we're teaching you to do this.
Is the change positive? And that's where the question gets weird.
I think
we don't really know if Kaiir Elam is a liability or not. I mean, we had some great plays versus Miami last year. Can you build off that? Do they like what they see? Or is Christian Bedford just got this position locked down? That's what we'll be looking for.
He's played well. Sunday. He's played very well too. So
yeah. But you won't see Dane Jackson out there. I can tell you that. You don't have the top end speed. Anyway, cash or trash, Anthony is scared of the Miami Dolphins offense. And don't lie. Don't lie.
Scared is too strong of a word. All right. Scared is too strong of a word.
Scared of this offense.
Anything, I'll tell you why. Because they are underestimating the Bills defense. Just like I said at the top about them scoring 70, right? I love that they scored 70. I love that everybody's hyping this offense. Yes, they're good. Yes, they're going to score points. But what is scared? Am I scared of 21 to 24 points? No, I think that's the max that Miami is going to get on this Buffalo defense, 24 points. Am I scared of that? No. Can we lose to that? Sure, if you don't play well on offense. But I don't think the defense matching up with this offense is suddenly going to be an Achilles heel for Buffalo. And, oh, my God, they're going to score, 38 points and beat the Bills. No.
Okay. Has there ever been an offense you've been scared of?
Kansas City. Yeah. Okay. I mean, come on. You cannot stop Travis Kelce. You've never stopped him in any matchup we've ever played him, ever, pretty much. And when we did, it was probably at the one game at the expense where Tyreek Hill got 200 yards. Great. We put 3 guys on Kelce to finally stop him, and Tyreek Hill goes off for 200. Now they don't have Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill. Right. So now he's on Miami.
And now they have, and Waddle's very good too. So don't get me wrong.
Right.
They have the weapons. They have the capability. The Bills have shown that they can shut down those guys, right? When that Kansas City offense with Kelce and Hill was scary. Anytime you play them. You're thinking your game plan is how do we stop them from scoring 40 points, right? Whereas with Miami, I don't think
the important thing is you had Hill and Kelce and Mahomes.
Yes. The guy throwing the ball.
Guys throwing the ball is scary with those weapons, right? Miami, though, they're scary in the same way. Like Waddle and Hill, you can't stop those guys, right? But we've seen the quarterback, I don't want to say struggle because that's probably not the right word, but be limited or be versus the Bills, right? They only played once, but the Bills can know how to slow him down. We saw New England slow him down. And we know he was hurt last year, right, versus the Bills. So there's still question marks at the quarterback.
Those footsteps.
So if you're going to go trash, you got to think it's because of Tua, because all other aspects of this offense are best in the league right now.
Correct. I mean, the run game, yes, but the Bills are better at defending the run than we were last year, than we were 2 years ago, right? So you could argue, oh, well, they'll shut down the pass, but they're going to run all over you. Well, not this year. They're not going to run all over us. I don't care if they had 800 yards in the last game rushing. They almost did. The Bills, right? The Bills are going to they'll allow a big run here or there, which is what they've done even in this year. But for the most part, it's shut down completely, the run, right? And those guys are really fast. So if they bust, they're going to bust big. But
yeah, and I'd say New England did a good job of slowing down Miami, right? And really that game was the New England offense just couldn't
get it together. They're incapable.
Right? Yeah. So, but again, you can't slow both of them down this year. I think the difference this year with Miami is they've figured out how to run the ball. The run blocking's been way better than last year.
Yeah.
Right. So the Patriots slowed down Tyreek Hill. He went 40 yards and a touchdown. Waddle had 86 yards, but overall the passing game was pretty limited. But then Mozart had 120 and 2 touchdowns.
Correct. And I don't think the Bills are going to do that. That's what I'm saying. The Bills are just as good, could have the same game plan, and our defensive line players are going to be better at shutting down that run game, which is why, again, at best, I think they score 24 points against our defense. At best.
So you're saying trash, not scared.
Trash. I know I'm not scared of them. And by the way, Josh Allen's still the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, and he's still playing the Miami Dolphins. He owns this team, owns them, right? So he's going to play well, I think, and match up well. And the offense is going to take control, which is going to give the defense a break, right? You got to let the offense maintain control, get a lead, and then you can, play the possession game a little bit and let the defense be strong when they come out and get a couple 3 and outs, right? If you could limit this team production wise to a couple of 3 and outs, that's going to win you the game. And I think they can do that.
I'm going cash because that offense is scary. I don't give a shit. They're firing on all cylinders. Tua's healthy. Tua looks confident this year. They're running the ball. And just that roster's ridiculous, right? And the Miami Dolphins have this game circled after last year.
Sure.
And come on, the way things are going right now, Miami is more scary than Kansas City in the AFC on offense.
Correct. I would actually agree with that. They have a better run game. They have a better second option in the pass game.
You're not scared of any offense in the AFC.
Not currently, right? I mean, those top dogs would have been Kansas City, which we knew they had a weakness at wide receiver. We talked about that in the preseason.
Burrow, right?
Joe Burrow with his weapons, but he's injured, and there's been.
I even thought the Chargers would be scary, but no.
Yep, the Chargers. No, that certainly isn't living up to it. Now they had Mike Williams injury. Miami is the other team,
and Miami.
I don't think I'm again at the level of being scared or afraid of that.
Yeah, you ain't scared of nobody.
They can score 24. Guess what? We're going to put up 34. So that's all that matters.
All right. 2 more here real quick. Cash or trash, the Bills still have meat on the bone when it comes to execution.
Oh.
We've seen them put up huge wins the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But everyone I talked to always something to bitch about. They ran the ball twice and threw it once. The play calling sucked. And buddy, you need to go watch other teams around the league. Get out of the Bills bubble. Because when I watch Josh Allen, I'm like, God damn, our quarterback's good.
That is
when I go watch
very true.
Most teams in the league, they just struggle moving the ball. You know what I mean?
It's and again, so when I think I absolutely cash, by the way. Absolutely 100% cash. I don't think you could say anything other than that because there's always room for improvement. Stay humble, stay hungry, right?
Yeah.
That's McDermott's.
They could be better on first down.
Exactly. First and second down, yes, but I think the big thing for me that I noticed in this last game that was frustrating, 2 things, they're linked. The gadgety plays, the off script plays, what I generally call the break them up plays here, that it's not productive, right? You're getting cute. The get cute plays aren't working, right? So what I mean by that is, it's second down. Let's hand the ball off to Gabriel Davis. What in the living hell was that? Are you kidding me? Your people are playing well, better than their people, right? Like that's simple football. Play football, line up, run route, throw ball, line up, run play, run the design run. You don't need to get cute. And that's what I mean by that, right? Another example that was part 2 of this, the 4th and 1. The 4th and 1 going for it. Always 4th and 1, the Bills should go for it in most situations, right? Why? Because you have Josh Allen at quarterback. And Josh Allen can fall forward for 3 yards. We joked, that I said Josh Allen has to lead the league in 4th and short, getting pushed and getting like 5 yards, right? He's the only guy who can do that. Most guys can get at least a yard. It's 4th and 1, and you line up in shotgun with Josh Allen as your quarterback. My head almost exploded. I'm like, what are you doing? Pushing Josh Allen forward works 99.9% of the time. There is no reason to line up and just say, well, you think we're going to do that play, so we're not, and we're going to pass it to somebody. I don't care who that somebody is. That's stupid. It's not good football. Line up, push Josh Allen forward.
Okay, so it was what? 4th quarter?
No, that was when it was still 16-0. That was still a 16-0 lead, which is great. I mean, you're up 16. You're not. But the point is, you don't need to get cute. Our players were playing better than their players. That's all you need to do. Continue to drive. Continue to do what's working. Don't try and get cute. And there was a lot of instances of this, right? It wasn't just those plays. It was probably 12 of them that I counted in the game where I'm like, what are they doing? And then they would go backwards or it would get stopped. Or I'm like, just stop trying to get cute and do what the football says to do, right? Line up, run routes. You don't have to. I think what he's trying to do is live up to Brian Daboll's creativeness, right? And sometimes you don't need that. You don't need that, right? To win games, not with the team that we have. Those plays might come in handy at certain points, right? Against teams when you need to bust it out. And maybe that's why you practice them. Well, it's not practice in a game. Call them now to see what kind of how it works out. But yeah, I don't like those plays in those situations. Now, if you're losing and you need to change it up, sure, bust out the weird shit and see how it works.
But I mean, look, you're up 2 scores. Why not give it a shot?
I hated it. Push them forward.
People are nitpicky as hell. Bills are number 1 in the league in 3rd down percentage. They're 3 for 5 on 4th down conversions on the season.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Man, you're worried about a little gadget play that didn't work. I mean,
it should have been 4 for 5. Just push it forward.
The Jets' whole offense doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
No, I'm telling you, we pointed, where's their meat on the bone? What can they improve on? There are certainly things that I noticed in the game, watching the full game, that they can improve on. And I was wondering about that. Like, is there an in-game adjustment for that? I don't know. I had to ask people who know more about football than me because, I'm like, okay, does the offensive coordinator realize those aren't clicking? Yeah, certainly. I gotta phone in Joe Marino on that one or something.
Yeah, I'm going trash on this. We got to bring in somebody who knows what they're talking about. Where's the meat on the bone? Because through 2 weeks, the Bills have just been dominant. Look, Josh has a couple turnovers. You want to pick that, fine. But
the other one I would say is
they've been executing well on a lot of different areas, right?
Certainly.
So
tackle.
We'll see, though. Real challenge this week. We'll have some stuff next week, right? But we got to remember this. We got to bring on a guest to come and explain to you.
Like the gadget plays. Oh,
yeah.
The get
all right, last
play.
one.
Don't
last
get cute.
one.
Play football.
Cash or trash, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow. But 0-2 versus divisional opponents early in the season will cost the Bills the AFC East title. If they lose to Miami, they'll be 0-2 in the division out the gate. Week 1, we know, should have been winnable with Zach Wilson in. If they lose to Miami, they're 0-2. And we thought it was going to be a tough division. Not looking so tough right now. Will that cost them down the road? We know they play Miami week 18.
Correct. That game would be in Miami, too, at the end of the season.
Right.
I still am going to go trash because so you figure if we go 0-2, that means Miami has to lose to one of the Patriots or the Jets in addition to us again. And as I already said, I do think they're going to lose to New England. The Jets right now are even, like that, not looking like they're going to lose. But even if
they just signed Trevor Siemian, I think so.
That's right. Yeah. Because that's going to really move the needle. Realistically, that offense needs to improve for them to even have a chance. So is Miami going to lose to New England? Certainly it makes it harder for the Bills to claim the division. But remember,
big game.
It doesn't matter if the Bills have another win over Miami, right? If the Bills finish with 13 wins and Miami finishes with 12, it doesn't matter if they beat us twice. They still don't win the division. Sure. We have the more wins. We win the division. So ultimately,
if we're thinking that logic, it's more about who are they going to lose to.
Correct.
Through the season. And in the NFL, obviously, that could be any week, right? But, both teams have to play Dallas. Both teams have to play Philly. Those games will be more important than others.
Correct.
So that'd be interesting. But the Bills got Miami. If they go 0-2, they don't get a shot to redeem themselves till week 7 at New England. Right. So now you're on the road.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. You got the Jets at home, week 11, November 19th. And then you don't get another shot till week 17 and 18.
Mm-hmm.
Patriots
end
in
of the year.
Buffalo, and then at Miami. Right.
Load up these division games at the end of the year.
Right. Which is fun, but that makes this week 4 game much more important than before, because if it is close, you don't want to be in a position where you have to win every single game down the stretch.
I don't think that's what happens, even if the Bills lose this game. I'm not predicting they will, but I do not think that that's going to be what happens. We're not going to have our backs against the wall in week 17 and 18. It's not going to happen.
That's it.
Win the game.
Okay, but
you could lose now and you'll still be okay.
Right.
Miami's going to fall on their face eventually. They've proven that, right? They're going to lose games that they shouldn't in November when it matters. And the Bills are not. The Bills have not done that over the years. Every team has one blip on the radar every now and then. We lost to the Jets. That shouldn't have happened, right? So it's going to happen through the season, but put up or shut up, right? We've never seen Miami succeed and punch it through at the end of the season the way we've seen Buffalo consistently do it to win the division.
Well, either way, the Bills' front half of the schedule is a lot lighter than the back half, right? Week 12, they're at Philadelphia. Then they go into the bye week, week 13, at Kansas City. They have Dallas at home, at LA Chargers, at New England and Buffalo, and then at Miami. That's the final stretch. And if we're looking at it right now, these are tough teams.
Sure. We'll see when the matchups come. I think the Bills will be favored in every single one of those. So what's that tell you?
Fair, but all I'm saying, don't put yourself in a bad position, right? Win this game, takes the pressure off for a while.
Definitely.
Right? You're 1-1. It's going to look a lot better. I just think being 0-2 in these early divisional games can hurt them down the road.
It's not a good place to be.
And their Bills are hot right now. Miami's obviously hot, so they're thinking the same thing. All right, that's all we got. Thanks for tuning in with us on the Hoof Podcast. We're back. It's going to be a fun week. Week 4, biggest game of the year so far. Going to be wild. You going to the game?
I wish. I looked into it. I'm still a little tangentially looking into it, but
it's going to be a wild
atmosphere. The tickets are a little pricey, and this time of year because it's still beautiful out in Orchard Park. So people want to go to these games, especially now that it matters big time with playing Miami. So I might.
I'm still debating.
It's going to be last minute.
Yeah. Might go out in town somewhere. May check a few places out, or just sit home by myself with the wife and scream at the TV.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that.
As
long as the Bills get the W.
Yeah, for sure. But hit us up at the Hoof Pod on Twitter. Let us know where you're watching the game, and be sure to tune in with us tomorrow and next Tuesday.
Thanks for kicking it with us.